Hey, I'm Troy Erickson, host of the Secrets of Scale podcast, as well as the Email Secrets Inner Circle. And I'm back with another amazing podcast guest today, kind of similar to what I had recently, which was my best podcast to date. So I'm hoping this one is just as good as that one. And that one I'm referring to is Chase Diamond. He sold roughly $75 million of stuff via email, mainly for e-com clients. Today, I am with Phillip Rivers. He also owns Tetra Marketing, which also specializes in Klaviyo, e-com, SMS, seven-figure agency. And he has really kind of come on the scene the last couple of years. I saw an ad from him about maybe a year ago, and I was like, who the heck is this guy? He messaged me on Instagram one time. We had a really good conversation and become friends online since then. So I was like, hey, just come on the podcast, share your secrets of scale, and we'll chat about email and agencies. So Phil, how's it going?
Going great, man. Thank you for having me. It's a long time coming. Happy to be here and spit knowledge for everyone watching. I hope you guys get a ton of value out of this, more than you got with Chase.
Yeah, I heard you guys are friends. So in this industry of email marketers and just like internet marketing in general, the first question I always like to ask is, how the heck did you get into this industry?
I mean, it's so, I don't even want to say by accident. So my origin story, if you will, was when I was in college. I've always been entrepreneurial. When I was in college, I was trying to make money on the side, and me and my buddy designed t-shirts that coincided with the releases of Nike Dunks, which were very popular Nike at the time. But back then, this is going to age me a little, but this is like 2005, so there was no Facebook ads yet. Shopify maybe just came out, but wasn't Shopify we know it, and like Facebook was brand new. Facebook was 2 years old at the time, just Facebook. And so we didn't have all the cool shit to sell in ways that we could sell then as we do now. So we came up with these designs that coincided with the releases of Dunks, and we sold these t-shirts on message boards. Couldn't be more Web 1.0. So all I could do was build a list and communicate with the list. So I kind of fell into email by proxy of when I was starting to market stuff on the internet, which is like a dinosaur age 15 years ago at this point. And then from there, just as I got older and had other ventures and technology got better, I've always just gravitated towards how do I build an audience, nurture audience, monetize audience. That could be for e-com stores that I've had myself, places that I've worked when I was an employee, or people I've consulted. Just been the one thing I've always sort of just known the best and been drawn to, I think, just by the nature of when I got into the game.
Amazing. So with the t-shirt company, how did that end up going? Was it like an early project? Did it turn into something more? And how hard was it to use the lack of tools that existed back then to try and make that thing successful?
It could have, in retrospect, it could have been a lot bigger of a thing than it ended up being. I was just a kid and didn't know what I didn't know, and a victim of my own sort of lack of experience and naivete. So I still kick myself for that sometimes, just because we had such an opportunity. We just were too young to recognize it. You know what I mean? So ultimately what those Nike Dunk t-shirts stemmed into was I would say a streetwear brand, but it was pretty much just t-shirts and hoodies that we got into, I think at the time was 50 stores throughout California. So, and again, the internet wasn't then what it is now. So a lot of that, getting into those stores and the exposure that we did was a lot of just blood, sweat, and tears, guerrilla stuff we would do in real world marketing. But I'm still proud of the accomplishment nonetheless. But looking back, I wasn't outside of building a list and monetizing. That was the extent of my marketing prowess on the internet. And so I just tell myself, if I knew now what I knew then, I probably would have sold that brand for a shit ton of money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the magic of it all, right? There's a trade-off. It's if we knew what we know now, then we would have been a lot more successful. But then again, not many people knew all that stuff back then. And
yeah,
the people who capitalized and made all those systems better, those are the people with billions now. Look at what Zuckerberg's done with Facebook since then. So
and everything happens for a reason, so it's don't cry over spilled milk, but it's fun but sad to play the game of what could have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Literally everything happens for a reason, right? It's we don't always know, but if it wasn't supposed to happen the way it did, it wouldn't happen that way. So
exactly.
Um, so how did you go from like, okay, I want to have my own store, to other people hitting you up and saying like, hey, Phil, can you send emails for me?
Yeah, so it was, I guess like I kind of started the agency just out of a sheer like need to have like my own entrepreneurial thing. So um I've had jobs, you know, working W-2 for places, and I was always drawn to like startups. And when you're young, like for me anyways, I know a lot of young people are the allure of the startups is like you could get lucky and be on a rocket ship and get rich, and a lot of like cool things come with it, but in reality it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And again, you don't know what you don't know when you're 22 years old. And so I was really into startups, and so I was working, I was like on a few different teams. Some got acquired, some got acqui-hired, but that's neither here nor there. Really, any job that I had, I've always had sort of a contempt for authority. That's just like my personality since I was a little kid. And I've always wanted to like do something on the side because I've never been fulfilled when I had a place of employment. And so I started like an agency, if you will, at the last job that I had. This is, I don't even know how many years ago at this point, but the agency was like doing a bunch of different things and pretty much just arbitraging what I would charge for it versus what it would cost for me to fulfill it. The email stuff I would do by myself, but then I would also do Facebook ads or PPC or web design. I didn't know shit about any of those things. I would just like figure it out. And then ultimately, I decided to finally leave my job where I was an employee to focus on the agency full time. And when I did that, I knew that I couldn't continue to do all these things, jack of all trades, master of none, because it made it very difficult to market and sell and fulfill. And so I got rid of all the stuff that I didn't know or enjoy, pretty much everything other than email. And then email just became my sole focus because it was my zone of genius, and I knew how to market it, not really at the time, but sell it and fulfill it. I was confident in my ability to do so. So it kind of just like, I don't want to say happened by accident, but by happened by nature of that's just all that I knew how to do.
Yeah,
And then one thing led to another after that.
yeah, a little bit of curiosity as well. I can relate in the sense that when I was about to graduate college, my parents were really heckling me to get a real job, as many people can probably relate. So I was like, all right, fine. I'm gonna go into this one place that replied. It's a marketing agency. I'm just gonna see what's going on. And surprisingly, they were kind of like, oh, it sounds like you don't really want to like be here that much. Is that right? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And they're like, all right, here's what we'll do. You can do some stuff for us and do stuff for you. And whichever one you like in a couple of months, just let us know because we think you're smart. And I was like, all right, thank you. I appreciate that. And I did. But the things they were having me do, I was in Facebook ads at the time, were like very, very simple, like incredibly simple. And I was making suggestions to them. I was like, hey, like, why are you running this type of ad for this type of offer? Like this one looks too generic, almost like a billboard. You should have a more specific CTA. And it was like blowing their minds. And I was like, I can't sign up for something like, sure, they're successful, but I can't like put myself into something that like I'm like almost advising them on certain
Totally.
things. It's crazy. But so after you kind of went out on your own, you got your first like several clients, what were some of the struggles that you had and how did you overcome those?
So like I was never, I think across the board, I struggled with marketing, selling, and fulfilling. So at the outset, I wasn't, I knew I could do email, and I knew the power of the channel and just how to look at it to know like I can ethically tell this person that I can make them money and know that I can actually live up to my word. And so, but I think a lot of times, like when I was younger or greener, I just wasn't equipped with the prowess from a with enough salesmanship to sell people in. So that was a bottleneck at the outset. And as a result, this is something a lot of kind of people that are just starting out struggle with, whether they're selling email or something else, is having the confidence, the conviction to sell the people, to sell the clients, to get the clients in essence. And so what I had to do at the time was give concessions to be able to win business. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. And so like, but I would think it was threefold. I just wasn't really, outside of email marketing, I didn't feel confident marketing myself. On the selling side of things, I've sold it in, but not at any scale. So people that were more experienced, more sophisticated, more mature than me could see right through me. And then on at the outset, the fulfillment side was where I had the most confidence because I had done it so many times. But once I started to figure out the marketing and the selling piece, the fulfillment is what became the issue because there's only 24 hours in the day and I'm only one person. So then it became just having the self-awareness to know like where attention needed to be paid at any given time, given what was working and where the business was, etc. And so then it came from transitioned from having to focus on getting better at sales, marketing myself and selling to I need to figure out the fulfillment piece. Otherwise, it's all going to break.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of freelancers can relate to that too. For any that are listening, it's like you kind of get down the craft and you spend so long on something that you're like comfortable with. But then when you have to go not just talk to other people, but convince them to pay you thousands of dollars every month, like it's kind of scary. So it's like it's a struggle because of that. But at the same time, when you at least like dive into that temporarily before you hire somebody else, it just makes you so much more confident and understanding of your audience and just like well-rounded in general. So after that happened, like how did you start scaling your team? Like, what were all the steps you took and how big is it now?
So at the time, I just needed like my time back so I could focus on marketing and selling. And I, at the outset, like, it's not like I didn't make one hire, then I was backed out of fulfillment altogether. I just wasn't ready for that yet. And so my sort of journey was I made some hires that could help me essentially take direction from me so I could do less button clicking and I would be more really like focused on more of the like higher leverage strategic stuff. And then have people that were, I'll say more junior, but just focus on the things that were more repeatable where I couldn't replicate myself yet. And so it was very evolutionary in the sense that like getting the lowest level stuff off my plate first. But then as we brought on more clients, I had to back myself out more and more. So either make other hires or train up the people that were doing it so they could start to be me in essence on the fulfillment side of things, because the marketing and the selling is really what's going to drive the business. And I think the one thing that's important to keep in mind or mention is just like, not everyone wants to have a huge agency or a huge client list. At the time when I started, when I was doing my freelance thing, when I left my W-2, I didn't want to have any employees because I don't want to deal with people. And then I discovered pretty quickly, like all I've done is create a new job for myself. I'm my own boss, but if I don't market and sell and do the work, I don't make money. So it's like stressful in a different way, and I actually like need people for me to achieve the level of success that affords me the quality of life that I want. And that's all relative, or that's all subjective person to person. Because I know I don't know, I just wanted to mention that there's a lot of info going out there about like, you have to do this, or if you don't do that, you're not successful. This is just my path, but I recognize that, having an agency that's doing, or a freelance business doing 100K or 150K a year, where I create a job for myself, is not the life that I wanted to have. And the only way to get past that was to back myself out of the fulfillment part of the business at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate to that too, because it's like, as a freelancer, you start out and like the greatest thing in the world is get a couple clients. And then all of a sudden, like even just a year and a half ago, I was like managing 8 clients all by myself. And I thought back and I was like, remember that time when I said I never wanted to like have a team? I just wanted to be solo. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. And I'm in an office right now. We've got a couple more coming back from break, but we do have a couple of people in the office today, and they're amazing. They do a great job just like managing client accounts. And as we grow the agency and we're creating a mastermind, it's like everybody's just getting involved. And it's fun to me to grow a team now. I never would have thought that was the case a while ago. So
I think like there's a natural, like, just like a maturation as the freelancer or the business owner, that like you have this self-realization that like, okay, I actually, if I want to keep this going and keep my hair, which you actually have a much better hairline than me, that I need the help of other humans to do it. And I think the biggest, at least one of the most difficult things for me was like accepting that like I can let something go, and if it doesn't, even though it's not done the precise way I would do it, it's still okay. And so that was just like an exercise or something that I had to go through personally, just to get comfortable with giving responsibility to people when I work so hard to do the marketing and do the selling, and trust that I made the right judgment call to hire this person, that they're capable of doing the thing that I brought them on to do to fulfill the work, so that the whole machine can continue to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all like real life too, because it's like we all go through phases of life, and it's like I'm 25, so it's like there's certain phases that I'm not at yet, but I'm smart enough to know that my perspective will change on things. Very much like an entrepreneur, like my perspective has changed on a lot and will continue to change. So it's really important to recognize that too. Um, so how big is your team now? How many clients are you handling? And tell us a little bit more about what you do for each of the clients as well.
Yeah, so right now we are, I think we're 10 people, and pretty much not pretty much, entirely US based. Maybe one person, one of the team members in the UK, but I'm big on just like, I could definitely farm stuff out to the Philippines, other countries that cost less. But for me personally, like, there's something, I know people need opportunity here as well. And so I sacrifice margin to keep people, to employ people that are, local, if you will, local being American, by and large. In terms of our client roster right now, we're at 50. And we add anywhere from 8 to 12 a month.
That's amazing. So, and I do agree with you too. And one of the reasons, and as I figure out this podcast, I'll get like smoother and smoother. But one of the reasons I do it literally in like the office is to show people like, hey, I am an agency. This is not like, oh, I'm just like running a side gig and we're outsourcing to different countries. That's like not how we operate.
Yeah.
And a lot of agencies today, they get a bad rap because of that. So I feel like it's just super important to just like come out and be one of the agencies. You're like, hey, we're actually like legitimate. Here's what we do, and be super transparent. And one of the things I noticed about the ads that you were running a while ago when I first saw it is it was just like a Loom screen share video. It's like, hey, I'm inside a Klaviyo account right now. Here's what I would do to make it better. Is that what you've typically done for advertising, or like, how have you managed to grow your business?
That was the ad that got me where I am now. But as you know, with ads, dude, it's hard to find winners, and when you do, you ride them as long as you can, but nothing lasts forever. Absolutely. And so that ad really like sort of changed the game for me. And it was, I would say I started running that ad maybe 4 or 5 months into me running ads, and I run my own media, and I still run my own ads, and I hate Facebook Ads Manager more than anything. But it's a necessary evil to growing the business. And so again, it's just like to get where you want to go, you have to do things that you don't want to do. My dad's told me that since I was a little boy also. And so like at this juncture, I'm probably on the verge now where I could finally outsource the ad stuff, but no one's going to care about your money more than you either. So it's kind of a catch-22 at the moment. But that was the ad that really like set the tone and started to change the game for me in terms of marketing and having opportunity to sell into the agency side of the business. But now I haven't run that ad in a while, but when I've tried to revitalize it, it never worked. So it's just done, it's dead.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works too. So, and I would love to run ads again. I miss it, but I had to pull myself out of it because I just, so many different things. I would be in there all day long testing new things, and like, I'm very technically minded, but yet creative. So it's like when you combine those, there's like a million ads lined up.
Yeah.
You'd never see me. I would never leave this chair.
Your girlfriend would hate you.
What was it about that ad? Was it just like simple and you're being transparent with people, or like what did you talk about?
I don't know. I just think it's there's not many people that do what we do, and even fewer that do it well. And so I just think it spoke to a segment of the market that like knew they either needed help, they were either problem or solution aware. And I just think it was the creative angle was just unique at the time, and it just the stars were aligned. But since then, since that ad, like that format of that angle, if you will, I started seeing it everywhere, not just for people I was competing with directly, but other people that were selling info products or courses, whether it be Amazon or Facebook ads or whatever it may be. I started seeing that format everywhere, and so it's no wonder why it just sort of lost its cachet.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't think of the kid's name, but there's a guy, his Facebook page is like 4080 marketing. I always used to confuse his ads with yours because I think he does the screen share, but he
That's
does
my homie.
ads. Really? That's cool.
Yeah,
It's funny how we're all connected in
it
some way,
is, dude.
shape, or form. So what are you doing right now for ads?
Right. So right now, like I think I've gotten to a place where Facebook has changed in the last 3 years, right? With the algo changes, iOS 14 and stuff, right? So now I think I'm no Facebook expert, but my hypothesis is that like on the platform now, it's really all about creative variation to find the next winner, and the people that can have the most flexibility creatively and bring the most stuff to market consistently to give Facebook the opportunity to find the next winner will win. And then when you factor in budget, like who can spend, if you factor in that and then who can spend the most, that's how you come out on top. And so right now it's just about, I haven't found a winner in a long time. Like we still get leads and we still get signed clients, but I haven't found the ad that is the next version from a winner standpoint as the ad that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. And one thing to point out, if anybody's listening to two agency owners talk and they're thinking about starting an agency or any business realistically, is it's not always about the ad. So for me, I kind of realized that, and there's, Facebook compliance is hard these days. So what I do is I just try to have like a good hook on the ad, a good hook on the landing page. Landing page is super simple and just hook, opt in. That's it. And then all the like most of the nurturing comes from my emails because I used to run ads where it's like, okay, I try to like sell them something straight away, or I try to like convince them to take some kind of action, book a call. But I'm like, you know what? Email is my strong point. Why am I not just having them opt in and then hit them every single day with reasons that they should trust me and buy from me? It's going to make their life better. So that's what's worked for me. And I'm continuing to try and find new hooks all the time as well. But it's like there's so much, like so many things I could do, only so much time in the day. But
Yeah, it's hard, man. If it were easy, everyone would do it. That's the thing. It's there. I think the most promising thing, if we were to take a step back, is that opportunity is abundant. So everyone that's listening on this call, me and you, we both do the same thing, but to two entirely different parts of the market. Whereas like Chase and I, our target avatar is essentially the exact same person, and that's totally cool. Like we're competition, but there's so much opportunity out there. Like just Klaviyo users alone, they have 270,000 users, right? I have 50 clients. Chase has 100, maybe 150, but still us combined, that's 200 Klaviyo users out of 250,000. We're not even scratching the surface in terms of the total addressable market that are Klaviyo users. So there's so much opportunity out there. And I think people miss that sometimes.
yeah, absolutely. If you add up your people, his people, my people on Klaviyo, it's like that's not even 1%.
Not even, like that's the craziest part.
Yeah. So
It's really crazy to think about. And you and I aren't even like who you guys service and who I service are two entirely different Klaviyo users.
yeah, absolutely. So
You know,
yeah, and that's kind of like when I was pushing this call, and that's like the main thing I want to talk about because I think it's cool. Like I was never open to this previously, but we've got two agency owners who essentially do the same thing. Here we are just talking about like how we can make each other better. And we'll announce this a little bit later, but next week we are partnering on something, so that's going to be fun. But to kind of go to something that you and I don't do that's the same, you do a lot of SMS. I've never done SMS for a client before. What are a couple of things that like business owners should do with SMS? I mean, maybe it's as simple as like, hey, if you're not sending it, you should send it. But like, what are a couple of key factors for you?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is collecting phone numbers first and foremost. I think what I see across accounts that we just evaluate, not even end up working with, is that there's a systemic issue around lead gen, and people don't know that, don't recognize, or business owners, people that have stores or businesses, period, they don't realize how crucial it is to capture as many leads as possible from their traffic sources they're already getting traffic from. But if they have a place, if there's a concerted effort around that, how that sets the channel, email and SMS, and just the business overall up for success in the long term, because they're building an audience that they own and control outright, and they have that access to that first party data to do what they want to do with it. So I think to answer your question, like just capturing the phone number first and foremost is the most important thing. And people don't even do that well, let alone the actual execution of the SMS piece of it. The other thing on the SMS side of it, in terms of what they should be doing, I think that overall, consumers are more accepting of SMS now than they were a year ago or 2 years ago, but we have a long way to go in terms of the mass adoption of people being okay with receiving marketing messaging from brands consistently in the modality of text. Whereas email, it's been so widely used and it's so accepted now for so long that we have a lot of like leeway in the inbox that we don't have on SMS. And it's also not an apples to apples comparison. We can't send what we would in an email via SMS. And so it requires like a different, just like, I don't want to say different angles, but you can't copy paste. It's not going to work. So generally speaking, that's what I see people do. They don't collect phone numbers. And when they do SMS, they don't think about it as it exists in the modality and how they would be talking to the person consuming the text that they send. And so I think on the SMS side, I would say I'm probably more conservative than most in that emails, the way that I look at it, these two channels and how they play a role, emails tried and true. It's been here forever and it's not really going to go away. And SMS is the new kid on the block. And so most businesses, they don't have their email channel in a place where it's healthy. But they gravitate towards SMS because it's the new thing. It's the cool new thing. It's the shiny object. But they're like allocate time, energy, resources there without having a solid foundation on the email side. And so what happens? SMS might take off out of the gate because they have some equity built up with their list, but then it starts to diminish, and then it doesn't drive results, and then they all still have nothing going on the email side, and then it's just a disaster. So because that's how I see it playing out in most businesses. And I don't want to just sell people something they don't need or fix the core issue, because at the end of the day, at some point the chickens are going to come home to roost if you operate like that. What I always say is SMS is a force multiplier of email. And it's so important to be foundationally or fundamentally sound on the email side, and then start to test things on the SMS front to see how the audience responds. And if the signal is positive, then starting to allocate more time, energy, resources to SMS, but not just do it because it's new and cool. Do it when it's the right time for the business. And there's a lot of businesses, what they sell, SMS isn't really well suited for it, but they want to do it because it's cool, not realizing email is probably the channel that would be much more lucrative for them in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to retweet a lot of the stuff that you said there because it was like very on point. And yeah, I agree. It's like email's been around for 20 plus years as well. And like text, like everybody said it was going to take over like 10 years ago, and it still hasn't yet. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it. It's like a lot of brands, like I've heard, Josh Snow, Sean Kelly talk about this at events and like literally ask them questions, and like they're crushing it because they have very just like young brands. And
Right.
me personally, I don't like companies texting me. Like maybe if I'm thinking about a purchase and then I make it, then I unsubscribe from the text list. But it's like you just have to figure out what works for your business too. Because I've seen a lot of people, and when I work with traffic and funnels, like I wasn't touching this department, but I know for them the outbound calling works really well. So it's like if you collect the phone number and then you have somebody in your team call or text them later, and it's just like set up, or you have a conversation, you set up a call, whatever it is, like that crushes for them. And there's all kinds of different ways that you can use this information. And people who put in their phone number are probably a little more serious than the people who just put their email. So there's all kinds of ways to utilize it, and I need to do a better job of that too. As far as
admittedly, I do too. I don't do from our own stuff. I don't leverage it to the extent that I should. It comes down to bandwidth. It comes down to when I have tested it, I just haven't found the thing that resonated, and there's only so much time in the day, etc. But admittedly, that's a place I can improve also. Yeah, it's a lot easier for me to do it for clients than it is for myself.
Yeah, there's just so many different things you could be doing. And I always like to say, all right, like I'm going to focus, as boring as it is, like boring makes money. I'm going to just focus on like one offer on one channel. And I'm not going to touch anything else until that works. And then I'm either going to go vertically to another channel or horizontally to another offer. And then just kind of like keep going from there.
And that's where a lot of people get lost, is they try and do everything at one time without having one thing going. And this happens with a lot of freelancers, even, or people starting out. They try and be on all the organic social channels at one time, constantly making content for them without having a following on one, and there's just not enough energy, or I see this with people running ads too, even e-com stores that we work with, they want to be on Facebook and Insta and YouTube and TikTok and Pinterest, but they are only spending across all of them 200 a day. I'm just like, you're not giving enough opportunity to one of them to work, because you're trying to be everywhere at once, not realizing how attention moves on the internet, and the fact that you're setting a very low ceiling for yourself in terms of performance by allocating that small of a budget across that many channels. But yeah, I see that all the time.
Yeah, as a business owner, I'm just like, sometimes it sucks, but you just got to do the boring thing and not get distracted. And the reason why a lot of people say all these like new things are working, and maybe it is for them, I don't know. But it's like, they're like, oh, email's dead, use this instead. Well, it's like, because they're selling that thing.
Right.
And don't let that distract you. Now, if you think it might work for your business, great. But like, I was dumb enough one time to try TikTok. I don't know why.
Ads?
No, it's just like regular posting, because I know a guy who's very, very good at it, and Ryan McGinn. He's amazing. He works with like Grant Cardone and like super high level people, but it's just not my audience.
Right.
And it's like certain things you should keep doubling down on, certain things maybe don't touch those yet. But yeah, it's just kind of like a reality check, and you just have to like look at yourself honestly and say like, okay, am I doing this because it's fun and new and shiny, or am I doing this because it's kind of like proven to work?
Well, and for me, dude, like this was one of the biggest things, or my biggest takeaways from Chris at TNF, was what he always talks about is like seasons in life, seasons in business, and that meaning that there's a time and a place for everything, right? And so when I was just starting out with the agency, and I had a small roster and not a lot of free cash flow to invest into the business, it wasn't the right time for me to do ads. And if I would have started them at the time, having no experience writing copy for ads, making ads, or an ads manager, and not that much budget, I would have been burnt out very, very quickly, just because it wasn't the right season for me to start to sink my teeth into doing that. And I got into it when it was the appropriate season. Thanks like to Chris's tutelage. And ultimately I was successful at I think a lot of it because I was in the right season when I started to do it. And so, but it's really hard. Like even when I got into the agency business at the time, I also had an e-com store on the side. I was doing this and that. And the e-com store was self-funded. I didn't raise money. Again, going back to my like contempt for authority and not wanting to have a daddy in the form of investors. And I was running the ads, so that was frustrating in its own way. But we were getting customers, but they were churning faster than I had anticipated, and I hadn't raised the money that other startups would have to make the churn okay. And so ultimately, it's not that the SIP was sinking; it was just like not growing. It was like very just treading water. And I had a conversation with my dad about it. He's like, dude, you need to pick one thing. You have 1 foot on the dock and 1 foot on the boat. You need to commit to one thing and not look back until you hit a certain threshold. Don't even think about doing anything else until you hit a certain threshold, because it's going to be a distraction. And I took his advice at the time. I was supporting myself with the agency, and so that was obviously going to be the choice, the decision that I was going to focus on. Shut down the e-com store like literally 2 days later, and jumped in TF. Everything changed after that. And to this day, I haven't looked at any other business to get involved in, to buy anything, just because like I'm right now just on the precipice of like, okay, now this business is in a place, the agency, the marketing and the selling and the fulfillment, where if something else had my attention and I don't give it all to the agency can still do its thing. And so, but it's like now I'm approaching the season where I can start to be creative, have fun with other entrepreneurial things. But it's been so hard for me to honor the commitment I made to myself for the last 2 years, not to get distracted by anything else until this business is at a place where it doesn't need me 24/7, 365. And that's why I'm at the place that I'm at now. Whereas most people, 3 months in, they would have been distracted with the next thing, and it would have been same story, different chapter.
Yeah, you're spitting fire there, my friend. That's good.
Thanks.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share in that realm before I kind of like shift topics? Because like sometimes the train's moving really fast and I don't want to stand in the way.
No, I don't think so, dude. I just think that I just think self-awareness is rare, and a lot of people, like a lot, I don't know anyone that's listening or watching personally, but I just know from my own struggles as a human and an entrepreneur, I know it's really hard to check yourself or pinch yourself when you're at a spot where like at any given time. But I think it's so important that you commit to whatever goal you want to achieve, and don't let any distractions keep you from getting there, because they come in all different forms that you can't even fathom. And ultimately, I'm not very religious, but I think that God rewards you if you honor the commitment and what you set out to do. And I think it's important to know that just like seasonality is so real, and if you can have the maturity to just kind of keep it real with kind of where you're at and your eye on the ball, like the success that you desire will be there. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, I think just self-awareness and knowing the season, recognizing the seasonality component is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So with all that, like, I know this is kind of like a funny question given that we just talked about focus, but maybe that focus has led you to like a really amazing idea that you've had. Because I always like to ask my guests, like, what is the best business idea you've ever had? And I know for you, it's not going to be something random. It's going to be probably focused and maybe not as sexy as other people, but like, what is one of the best ideas that you've ever had for your business?
For this business,
Yes.
what I guess, what do you ask me that one more time? I want to make sure I understand the
Yeah,
question.
just your best business idea inside your agency.
Inside the agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, honestly, man, I don't, my answer is going to be a non-answer, because I've been so just laser focused on not deviating from the path or the commitment that I made to myself, not to think about anything else. So I think rather like my best, the value add, the best like idea for the business is really just comes from being very cognizant of what we're doing and systematizing it to make a process that is our, what I would call like our agency operating system, which isn't a novel thing. It's not something I could probably come up with a way to sell it, but it's not like its own product that could be spun out. But it's like, this is the brain of the whole operation that I had to go through all the things to get to the point where I could make the OS so the agency could be more of a functioning like business unit, not a job that I created for myself. As boring as of an answer as that is.
Yeah, and honestly, I gotta say, like, the thing that excites me most in business, like I love talking to people in like this kind of setting or like events, but when I'm not doing that or like directly coaching a group, I'm just really happy like in front of my computer, building some kind of like operations or system that just like makes things flow smoother. I don't know why, but that's just like how I'm wired. And to me, that's like really sexy. But yeah.
I'm the
So
same. I'm the same. Like, dude, there's things that I want to do. Like, I have a list of ideas not related to the agency, SaaS. I still love ecom. I still love just like even just like analog businesses that aren't on the internet. You know, like a fucking landscaping business, not related to an ecom or email at all. But again, it's just like, yo, I made this commitment to myself. I'm not fucking thinking about it. I'm not pursuing anything else till I hit these certain thresholds. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, I won't do it as much as I want to, and I'm distracted and I have like the fucking pull every day. I won't do it.
yeah, I've had a couple ideas like that too. Like lately, one that I really wanted to do, and I guess anybody listening, if you don't have a business currently, maybe take this idea, but like I've wanted to develop a service that lets you unsubscribe from physical mail. I don't know if there's a way to do that, but I'm like very
I don't know
annoyed.
if there's a way to do that, but that's cool. Well,
Like,
so like I listen to My First Million pod, and you know they're always coming up. They always have sick ideas for shit. Like Sean just rattles off dope ideas every week, and I listen and I'm like, dude, this like some of this guy's ideas, they're such bangers. And like, so one of them he had that I still want to pursue eventually at some point is like med spa for testosterone for men, and just like how that whole business works and how what you charge for the treatments, and that it has to be all cash, and the nature of the inherent underlying product of testosterone is like set up for recurring revenue just back because you always have to take it if you start it. And I was just like, dude, I love this business idea, but it's just like, it's retail. it's controlled substances. You need like an RN to be able to, it's like all these things that I don't have the bandwidth to even begin to undertake that endeavor. But I'm just like, I listen to that podcast and I just like my entrepreneurial juices get flowing, and it's just like takes so much self-control not to act on any of the cool things that they talk about.
It's like a drug for us.
Yeah.
The entrepreneurial drug is ideas.
Yeah.
And they're really not worth much unless you do something.
Well, my dad always says ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the execution that counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most people, they just, maybe it's just because I've tried things and they failed. And in retrospect, I tried them, didn't put forth the effort they needed, or didn't have the conviction in them to like have them actually have a fighting chance. Most businesses fail inherently. Only 4% of businesses ever that exist gross over $1 million a year. Only 4% ever. So the odds are against you no matter what. And that's why I guess maybe it's just the season of life that I'm in to bring this full circle. That it's just like, I know what it takes to get something to be successful. And I can't even allocate anything close to that from an energy standpoint. So therefore I'm not starting.
Absolutely. So on the flip side, I was like to ask, what is the worst business idea you've ever had?
Oh man, I've had so many bad business ideas. Well, so like car washing, that was one of my first businesses. I was young, but that's a really hard business to grow and scale and be profitable. Very recently, I met this guy, and he has a mobile car washing business, but his model is so unique that I wanted to like do it here. He does it in Canada, but it's like everything's in a storage unit, and kids that are in college use their own cars to go wash the client car. So it's like Uber, but car washes, but they're not like in vans where they have huge water tanks. It's like a backpack full of water and soap, and they spray. It was like the coolest thing. But I think, so I love car wash. I like car wash business, but I think it's hard to make real money from it. So I think that's a pretty shitty idea. Not his idea, but just being like, having a car wash business when I was 16, it was pretty like dumb idea. And it just shows how the lack of creativity I had at the time.
Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting because when I was in school, I had a semester where I wasn't playing baseball, and it took me a little over a semester, but I made 10 grand just flipping things like textbooks from kids, or like instruments, things like that, just on like Facebook Marketplace and reselling them on Amazon. And it started to like cross my mind. I was like, what if I could take this and I could like license it out, and like kids would just like go buy books, and like somehow I would get access to them and sell them, and all these people like buying up books for me. But then I thought about how complicated it would be with all this, like how is the money exchanged? But the whole concept of like the platform, right? Because like you mentioned Uber, like they've crushed it. Airbnb, they crush it. So it's like, how can you take something and put it on a platform like that? But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, I think I'm just going to stick with what I do right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's so hard. Like, you don't know what's good. I don't want to say every idea you have you think is a good idea, but that's like a human flaw where you think just because you thought of it, it's original and it's great. And usually neither are true.
That is, yeah, that's pretty good advice there. So before we get into a little bit of Q&A, you said a lot of good things here, but naturally, because of the title of this podcast, I have to ask, what is your number one secret to scale, whether that's something more like mindset or something tactical?
I would say it might be a combination of both. I think it's being very clear on the goals and the inputs necessary to get there. So it's kind of like, I would equate it to like when we're running ads or marketing our own businesses respectively, Troy, we have the KPIs for the whole funnel. And so it's that, but applied to the overarching goals for the business. So for example, like if I want to gross $10 million this year, what are the numbers backwards that I have to do to get there? And then how does that relate to how much money I'm spending for ads, how many leads I'm getting, what's the cost of the leads, how many leads book calls, how many of those calls we actually take because they're qualified, how many of those calls do we make offers to, and what is the close percentage on average of those offers? Because then it's just playing with numbers in the funnel to get the outcome of 10 million.
Yeah, and just looking at numbers and sheets and all that, it's like it takes time to get there. but I really enjoy just kind of like picturing like, okay, we've got an ad here, a person clicks this, they land on this landing page, they opt in, they get an email, they book a call, and just kind of like going down and like starting big picture, then getting nitty gritty, and like, how can I dial in every single thing? And how can I simplify it as much as possible? So this person, they come through and there's just like no flaws in it. And that may not be possible, but those are things that I really enjoy like building out. And I think that is something that a lot of people are missing. A lot of people struggle with ads, a lot of people struggle with fulfillment. It just kind of depends where you're at, and you just have to figure
But
out.
yeah, but I think on the secret, my secret of scale is I just, for me personally, or I think for most business owners, if you make the decision commitment that you want to be more than just a one-man shop, is knowing your numbers. Like, what are the inputs? What are the outputs? And even like you have big goals, like I said, 10 million. I'm not close to 10 million now, but it's going to take me a while to get there. But it's like trusting the process and committing to the journey to ultimately get there. So I look at, when I started, I never thought that my business agency would be as big as it is right now. But then I like talked to Chase, that's farther bigger than I am, and I'm just like, dude, I never even thought that was possible until I talked to you. So it's like it's all relative. But that's I think knowing your numbers is so important. Most people don't run it like a business.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like your perspective definitely shifts over time. And one thing, this is kind of in relation to the first question that's come in. So my mindset has definitely shifted from like doing the work to like getting help to like do the work and like build out an offer, and then kind of like build something that's like an asset. Like an agency is a legitimate asset. And now I own real estate, so like that's an asset. I'm just thinking more and more about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tom asked a question. He said, do either of you supplement your work with any sort of like affiliate marketing? Um, or I guess we could expand that question. Like, do you supplement, your agency with any other kind of like passive income, whether it's like in the business, like affiliates, or whether it's like real estate or anything like that?
Not in the business. I just look at anything in the business as different business units. Like you have the group, and you have a couple different products. I consider that just like the core part of the core business. They're just an ascension ladder in working with you. So I don't do any affiliate stuff per se, but I look at everything that we do as just like a part of the business. And there's one thing is always selling the next thing. In terms of stuff outside, yes, real estate, crypto. Obviously, I don't have the time in the day to do the research that I would like to do into alts and the NFTs and shit like that. So I just stay true with what I've been in from the beginning, which BTC, ETH. And is there money to be made? Sure. Again, it just comes back to not enough time in the day and me honoring the commitment I made to myself. So like that's just me though. So I'm always like have my ear to the street on assets and stuff. But again, going back to the seasonality answer, as boring as that is, like, and there's a time and a place, and I'm just trying to be very cognizant of where I am.
Yeah, absolutely. So my answer to that question within the business, it's like I've got a couple sides, right? So it's like B2B, and normally that's going to be either solving promo tab or spam issues for people. And then we've got recurring email list management. And then on the other side is coaching, right? So like working with freelancers to help them kind of learn what I do. Eventually, they're going to kind of meet in the middle here this year with the mastermind. It's not going to be too complicated, but it's going to be very valuable. So that's what I'm doing inside the business. As far as outside, I'm in real estate. I have a SEP account set up, which is just like traditional stocks. And then I am getting involved with the plan for Dan Hollings as far as crypto goes. And these are things I don't spend a lot of time on. Again, just like Phil said, you really just have to understand where your time is best spent, especially if you are starting out, because there's going to be no crypto coin that's going to give you an ROI like starting your own business.
That's right. And that's right, dude. And get rich quick it happens, but it's very, very, very rare. And so I just don't have luck like that. And I know that. So I just control what I can and stay focused, and I know it'll work out because my head's screwed on right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like the time to invest in things other than the business is like after the business is figured out and it's doing pretty well, and you've got extra cash laying around that's losing value, then you can put that somewhere else. So just keep that in mind for anybody who's listening from that perspective. Alma asked a question essentially saying like, if there's any way they could write emails for like us in exchange for a testimonial. So what I'm going to do, like my agency is good. I've got people in here, but I kind of want to reframe this question because I don't want to leave you hanging. So I actually just recorded a YouTube video yesterday. I think it'll be up like today about how you can use that exact process to get more clients. So for me, the thing that blows me away for people, and Phil, I can let you answer this in a second, but for me, it's when somebody approaches me with something that I've recently said I needed, but I haven't looked for yet. Or if you see a hole in my business that I'm not aware of. So for example, I've had a couple of people in my group listen to podcasts like this one, and they notice on YouTube, I don't have timestamps. I don't have like notes or like descriptions or anything. So they hit me up and they're like, hey, I can do that for you. And now they've got their foot in the door, and I'm gonna give them credit in the video. I'm gonna brag about them a little bit. And if I need some copy jobs, I'm probably gonna give them to them. So that is one really good example. Other times I've had people, they've like done designs and logos for me before because they've heard me mention on coaching calls that I need them, but I haven't got around to posting it yet. Well, guess what happens? If I post it, they have competition, but if they get it to me before I post it, it's a party of one and they get the job, assuming they're
Yep.
good. Do you have any advice for somebody who is kind of looking for like a really creative way to close their first few clients?
Yeah, so I think like take doing what other people won't do. Everyone wants people overwhelmingly are like entitled and think that the world owes them. And so rather, I think like if there's someone you want to do work for, not like send a cold email, be like, hey, I do this, I want to do it for you. It's not that unique or enticing to their prospective client. So like rather, if you're like, just do it first. Like be like, yo, I wrote you 3 email sequence to try. I think test it against your one. Yeah, you're going to put forth some effort up front to make it. So a lot of people, it'll go nowhere, but you will sign some clients from it because you have a completely unique angle on what you're using to get in front of them, and you already put forth effort, time in making this thing for them. So I think it really just comes down to trying things that other people won't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the truth is that like most people, there's not much they are willing to do.
Right.
So like I've seen all the time in like job boards, there's like jobs posted that look pretty good and like nobody applies for them because they assume that everybody else did. It's like a lot of them are like easier pickings than you think because of that, but it kind of blows my mind. So just being proactive and just doing doing the weird thing that other people won't do.
Yeah, like for example, not specifically related, but one hack that I always recommend to young people that like want jobs, not with me per se, just people that I know that are looking for jobs, is like, what does everyone do online when they apply for a job? They click the apply now button. It autofills the info, not much uniqueness to it. You click a button. It costs virtually no time, effort to apply, and your application is handled the same way. Rather, like information is everywhere. If there was a job that you really wanted, what I always tell young people is like, whoever's making that hire decision, the person you're going to be working for, what's the unique way that you can get in front of them that no one else is doing because everyone else is just clicking the button. So what I've recommended, and it's worked very well, is you send the person a FedEx envelope that they have to sign for. And as soon as they sign for it, you call and be like, hey, I sent you this thing. Did you read it yet? No one's doing that. And so it's like doing little things differently to get their attention. So you get your foot in the door, just like the local people did with you or whomever.
Yeah, that's really good too. So to wrap that one up, it's like a lot of people ask me and they're like, hey, can I write an email for you? But it's like they're not really understanding that's my strong point. Like that's what I'm really good at. That's what my team is really good at. I need somebody to point out things I'm not good at or things I'm missing or things that I say I need. Because if I say it, then obviously I need it. And it's like if you can do that thing, then there's an opportunity there for you. So
yeah. So just be creative and do what people want is the moral of the story.
Absolutely. There's a question from Antonio as well. I'll let you take this one first. When hiring a team, what is the biggest expectation you need to set for them to perform more efficiently?
When you say more efficiently, like we're just getting more done in the day, I'm going to presume
I would imagine just like getting more done in a timely manner.
Well, I think it's like it all comes down to incentives. And so what is their incentive to do more? Are they going to be paid more? Do they get to capture some of the upside? Like, what's in it for them to be more efficient? And I think that's the equation you have to solve for. So for example, here, what I started to do recently was do profit share for, like, a pooled profit share for all employees that run the accounts that are our clients. I don't make any more money. It's actually cutting into the margin, but it's a way for them to capture upside in terms of the work that they're doing, and directly correlated with clients staying longer, because the longer people stay in there in the pool, the team is direct benefactor of it. And in doing so, they'll go above and beyond and do the extra work, so that the client has a good experience, and we drive results for them, because they want them to stay as long as possible, as opposed to having no skin in the game. They just get a salary, and whether the clients come or go, or they give shitty service and they come or go, it's no sweat off their back, because their paycheck isn't changing either way.
Yeah, one thing I'd love to add to that is it's not always financial. So, and I'm saying this like as my team sits here in the room. So like Oscar is over here. What's up, Oscar? So when I first brought him on, he was the very first person I ever hired in person. And I just made sure to like understand what his goals are. And for now, it's like he wants to get really good at managing lists, get really good at writing, and he wants to like be part of something bigger and more. So like this mastermind I'm launching this year, like he's gonna have a part in that. Like our whole team is gonna have a chance to like take a stage at the events that we run, and like really just kind of like see what I'm doing and learn from me, because it's like I would love to have these guys forever, but at some point, like if their goal is to like go do their own thing, that's great. I'm happy for them.
Yep.
It's like understanding what people want and just being able to have a conversation when you need to, and just like treat people like humans. I know it sounds simple, but it's like this isn't a thing where
it's not rocket science.
Yeah, the people I hire, like it's not like they live on the other side of the world. I never talk to them. It's like that, you know, they're here and we talk, and it's like we're friends.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head, dude. Like, it's not always financial, and everyone has their own goals, hopes, dreams, expectations. A lot of times those go unsaid, usually because the people that are leadership at a company, they're not good at being leaders. They're just good at giving orders to people, telling them to fill in the blanks. So if you want them to stay, if you want it to be a good work environment, you want them to do good work, then it's like, it's the financial component is obviously part of it, but there's also some like other inherently intangibles that are important to us as humans, or to, you know, to them, Antonio, that you have to uncover to get them to put forth the extra effort to be more efficient.
Yeah, it could be as simple too as like, let's say you have like a woman working for you and she wants to spend like more time with her kids or something, and she's like kind of like shy to ask about it. Like maybe you should just like have a conversation, or like just like once every month or so, just like sit down and talk, and like let them know it's okay to express things, because you never know what's worrying somebody in their personal life that you can help them with in
Yep.
not even a business sense.
Sometimes they just want to be heard.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going? How can I help you grow as a person, with whatever they're, as a copywriter, whatever they're doing for you in the business, whatever their passion is, like, how can I help you? Like that goes a longer way than money, because no one asks.
Yeah, it's true. It's just really interesting. It's like be a human, and it goes really far.
Yeah.
So there's a question from Drew as well on Facebook. He said, what do you think of trying to get a foot in the door with a few of your like mentors, trying to work out something where they feel good to like refer prospects to them if they can't afford your fees? So I'll comment on that the first two, because I've seen my friend Jason Blojo, and I think you've heard of him, Phil. He's from
Yeah, I know who he is. He's a G.
Yeah, the Newburgh area. He's definitely a G. I lived with him for. He's doing something very successfully in his agency now, running Facebook ads, where if somebody can't afford his fees, he routes them to a different salesperson for like a company that he owns, but it's smaller, and they have a different segment of people running those ads. So he's still like getting paid for that segment, but it's going to like other people. Now, it's going really well for him. It could get complicated. So if there's like another company, you can definitely kind of like pass leads on to them, or in this case, Drew, maybe you are that company that's having leads passed on. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it hurts to reach out and just ask and like show that you're really credible and become like an official partner. So the agency can be like, hey, like, you know, maybe this isn't a great fit, but like Drew does amazing work too. He probably charges a little bit less. I can connect you with Drew. And then obviously there's a little bit of rev share going on there. But I mean, I think the biggest thing here, if you're going to try to find someone to partner with, is trying to have like a bolt-on kind of package, right? This is something that Jordan Hall told me one time. He's like, people, they don't really want you messing with their business, but if it feels like you're kind of like bolting on something that can help them, that they don't really have to like touch too much, they're more likely to say yes. So that's just kind of my advice in that situation.
I agree. The other thing too is if someone's going to be referring you business, they're putting their banking if it doesn't work out, it's a knock on their reputation that referred you. So like that's the thing. I wouldn't just refer business to anyone that just hit me up cold, me having no exposure to them before, and they haven't earned my trust. Because if I refer someone or multiple people and it doesn't work out, it just ultimately reflects poorly on me. Like I didn't do my due diligence on you before I referred people to you, you know, so it sort of like tarnishes my reputation. So I just think you have to think about it like what's in it for your mentor that you want to ask him to essentially swim in his wake off of the name that he built for him to refer you clients. Like what's in it for him other than a nominal rev share, which probably wouldn't do much for his business, for his bottom line anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just really thinking about like, okay, this is another advantage of why like paying for memberships is a great thing. Because it's like the relationships I've made because of things that I've bought and Facebook groups that I've joined. And like the majority of the people I've met in this industry have been in like Facebook groups, which is crazy to me, but it's true. It helps incredibly. So yeah, those are some good questions. Thank you all for attending. Now, Phil, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, at the Phil Rivers.
Gotcha.
My website, gotetra.co. That's probably the biggest places, or email me, phil@gotetra.co.
Perfect. And you probably thought you were about to get off the podcast without a Phillip Rivers joke, but
Who has it?
He's not gonna play catch with you with the football. Okay, so
I will not play catch with
more
you.
money with your email list though.
Yes, I will.
If you're on Klaviyo, Ecom, SMS, anything like that. So go find him on Twitter or go Tetra Marketing. Any last things you'd like to say?
Thank you. Happy New Year. Let's get after it.
All right, sounds good to me. Thank you as well. So thank you for everyone for tuning in. Phil and I will actually be back next Wednesday for something that I'm going to announce in the next couple of days. So stay tuned with that, and we'll see you next week.